Welcome to Sexy Sunday, where we analyze sex scenes from films and TV shows, discuss what they tell us about the story, the characters, and more importantly, whether they're hot or not. I'm Jessica.
I'm Anouchka.
And this is Sexy Sunday.
Today we're talking about American Psycho. I'm very excited. American Psycho is a novel written by Bret Easton Ellis that got turned into a script written by Mary Harron and Guinevere Turner, which then got made into a film directed by Mary Harron. It is my favorite film, so I'm going to talk a lot and I'm going to be super boring and technical.
How many copies of the DVD do you have, Anouchka?
Okay, so what happened is I watched the film on Netflix when it was on Netflix, and I loved it so much that I was like, I really want to watch this film with the director's commentaries because I'm a nerd and also a wannabe director, so obviously that makes sense to me. And I ordered the DVD. And there was loads of cool features, but there were no director's commentary on it. But I knew this DVD existed, so I was like, well, it's fine. I clearly don't have the right copy. I'll get another one. Then I got another one that was the right copy, but that was a Blu-ray because I'm an idiot and I don't read things before I order them, which is a recurring issue in my life, actually. I just keep on ordering things and they're never the right size. They're never the right anything. And then eventually I did get the right one. So I do have 3 DVDs of American Psycho. But the fun thing is they all look different. Like they've all got different covers. So I feel like I'm kind of want to keep my little collection of American Psycho DVDs.
Yeah, that it's kind of like collecting different book covers in a
exactly.
way. Or you have like the abroad version or the US version.
Exactly. And they all have Christian Bale on it. So I am not getting rid of any of them.
So I am framing them and putting them next to my bed.
Pretty much. But yeah, I became slightly obsessed with this film during lockdown, watched it way too many times, like literally was watching it 7 times a week.
Wow.
And yeah, I just love it. I think it's a hilarious film. I think it's really, really, really one of the funniest films that's ever existed. So yeah, I love it. It has 3 sex scenes in it, which is not that many, but it's got one of my favorite sex scenes of all time, and I feel like that counts for at least like 10.
Is it the one where he looks himself in the mirror and like flexes his biceps?
Yeah, I think it's the best. Like it's just a hilarious sex scene. I've never seen a sex scene being this funny. It's not the hottest sex scene, but
no,
it is
correct.
It is such a good sex scene. I feel like this is not even going to be like Sexy Sunday. This is just going to be an American Psycho like trivia night. Because I have so many fun facts.
Oh, I'm excited because like I think I'd seen it once ages ago, and that was like during my phase where I'd watch movies in a like probably in a blasphemous way where I couldn't quite sit through a whole movie and I'd have to look up the ending. Like I'd just like I'd keep like as I was watching it be like I want to know what happens next, and I'd look it up, but then so many movies I spoilt the ending for, or like the twist. So Fight Club was one of them, and so with American Psycho I didn't really enjoy it because of that. So it was like when I watched it again today I was like, actually it has some very funny moments, like some funny self-aware moments, and I definitely wouldn't call it a sexy film.
No,
but I also there's like parts of it where, because obviously you are not a horror or gore fan,
not at all,
where I was quite surprised that it's a favorite of yours, but then you said you wanted to discuss this.
Yes, I think the reason why I'm not bothered by the scarier elements of it is because first of all I don't think you see much. There's only like one scene where you really see him, because the first person he kills is this homeless man and you see him killing him, but you don't see anything really. Like it's obviously stabbing him, but it's not like you're seeing anything that upsetting. If you're not, if you're
Mm.
if you're watching it with that sound and you don't know the story, it could almost look like they're hugging. Or at least like he's like punching him in the stomach a few times, but it's not necessarily like a super upsetting thing.
Yeah.
And then with the prostitutes, you see him getting like all of his little tools, but you don't see anything. And the only thing that obviously, yeah, with Paul Allen, but again, you don't see it. You just see the blood like splashing out everywhere, which is not, to me, that's not upsetting. Like blood doesn't upset me. That's not what
Okay.
I have a problem with. And then yeah, with the chainsaw, but again, it's like very far. Like I don't know. I just don't think it's. The first time I watched it, I was really scared of being scared, so I kept on like seeing in teeny tiny with that sound what was happening before putting it on the big screen, and actually nothing was that upsetting to me. And then in the director's commentary, which I am literally going to refer all the time, so be prepared. Mary Harron says that she's not a massive fan of horror. Guinevere Turner, who wrote the film with her, absolutely hates horror.
Wait, so is it directed by women and written by women?
Yeah.
The screenplay?
It is, yeah.
No way!
And Guinevere Turner, who didn't direct it but co-wrote the script, is in it. She's the girl who has sex with Christian and he eats her at the end. Before the one, like prostitute leaves the bed because she can tell there's starting to be blood on
Is he eating her? I thought he was like stabbing her.
Oh really? I feel like because he's got blood all over his mouth.
It's just never occurred to me.
But yeah, so that's that woman, the ginger one. She's co-written the script, but she's also an actress, obviously. And yeah, Mary Harron in the director's commentary says that she thinks not showing violence is more powerful than showing it. So especially in the scene with the two prostitutes where you see him picking his instrument of torture, but then you just see them leaving and they're bruised and they're clearly not well, but they're still alive. It's like imagining what he must have done is definitely probably worse than actually seeing it.
Definitely. And it's I think sometimes you don't need to see the whole thing. Like it can be quite horrifying to the extent that it's no longer entertainment. It's just like a form of trauma porn in a way.
Exactly.
But it's so true. If you're like quite restrained, it leaves a lot more up to the imagination, and it creates more of an air of mystery and sinisterism. I don't know if that's a word, but I have just made it up.
But we like it.
Sorry, I was to say that it also because the ending is so ambiguous, and because there's so much kind of about his own mental state that's quite ambiguous. I think that restraint of not showing us what he does with the tools adds to that ambiguity, and the like not treating the audience as dumb, but being like, kind of, you put together your pieces and it will be what it needs to be. That I quite enjoy.
But that's interesting because the both screenwriters say that they didn't want the ending to be like, it ended up being way more ambiguous than they wanted it to be. Apparently they wrote it so that they didn't want anyone to think it was like he wasn't killing people. Which they
didn't want people to think that he wasn't.
Yeah, they wanted people to think that it was real, like he was killing people. And obviously, well, apparently I read an interview once where they were like, clearly we fucked up, because people are all thinking it was all a dream, it was all in his head, blah blah. But it's like to them, they didn't write it as that. Obviously in the book it's like a bit more ambiguous, and I don't think Bret Easton Ellis has ever said whether he actually is killing people or not. But to Mary Harron and Guinevere Turner, he definitely is killing people. Maybe some of it is not necessarily a reliable narrator, so some of it might not be 100% what actually happened, but he's probably not like an innocent person either.
I mean, I don't think like he's an innocent person, because he's obviously got aggression, and like his secretary seeing what's in that notebook shows that he's quite mentally disturbed. But I do think that the way that they set it up definitely feels like he didn't kill people. Like it's all kind of in his head. He has this grandiose sense of self, of him being like a psychopath, but he's not. It's all his imagination. Because it's also interesting when he like kind of brings it up in conversation, or like
I love this
kind
so much. Every single time he brings it up and people don't like mishear. It's
yeah,
one of my
yeah.
favorite things. Like, it makes me laugh so much.
Same. It was just so enjoyable. His like, because he's sort of like a character in his own world.
Oh, it is 100%. And that's what the director always says. She says that her and Christian Bale were like, well, considering like it's like he's an alien and he's just arrived on Earth. So there's this whole thing where it's like he doesn't know how to be, which they've not mentioned this, but I've picked up on it because of watching the film 1,000 times. When he's with the inspector, with Willem Dafoe, and they're having lunch, he watches Willem Dafoe put like salt on his meat, and then he puts salt on his meat, but he puts way too much salt, and it's almost like he's seen it doing something, so he's doing the same thing, but he doesn't really know how to do it. And throughout the film, there's like several moments where he's watching things. So like there's one time where he's watching porn while he's on the phone, and another time he's watching a Texas Chainsaw Massacre while he's exercising. And the director in the director's commentary says that this is basically him learning how to do things. So it's like if he's going to have sex, he watches porn so that he knows how to do it. If he's going to kill someone, he watches how other people kill people, and then the chainsaw comes into play at the end. And it's like it's basically him learning how to be acting like he's a human, but he's not. Obviously, he's not a human. It's not a sci-fi film.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's like there's no depth in, like he's just like a robot throughout the world, like just mimicking. And that's why they've got the same haircut, they've all got the same glasses, they've all got the same suits, they're basically just like mimicking each other constantly.
Yes. And he like also hammers home how he just wants to fit in.
Oh yeah,
like that's all he like wants.
Exactly.
So it's no wonder that he's just like mimicking those people around him. So it's like
exactly,
we can all feel like we fit, even though we're just like personas, we're not really people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's really interesting in the sex scene that I love with the two, like the threesome, because the first threesome, because he goes and picks up the first girl, and it's like he's literally dressed as if he's going to prom, and he picks her up in a limo. I think that's why he picks prostitutes, is because he can really mold them into whatever he wants, because he's paying for them, so he got to tell them what, like direct them. Whereas when he's sleeping with the other girl, who's the guy he works with, his girlfriend, it's a bit different. Like we only see them having sex once, but he's just on top, they're having sex, he looks like very uninterested in her, she looks high. Like I think that's just whatever. I don't think he can really be in his, like I feel like with the two prostitutes in the first sex scene, he kind of puts on his romantic mood, and it's like it's him being what he thinks a man on a date would be like, except obviously it's all fake. It's like the girls are not actually here to be on a date with him, and he's super directive, but he wants everything to be perfect. And it's like he's so upset when the second girl arrives and she's not actually blonde. It's like as for dirty blonde, and it's like that really upsets him. And then as soon as he's upset, obviously he loses it. But it's like he wants to mold everything exactly how he thinks that a proper date should go, should be like. So I just lose it every single time he picks her up, and he's literally dressed like he's going to prom with his little white scarf over his tux. This is the best. I love this film so much. And also the fact that his flat is like, especially his bedroom in that scene, it's just so clinical, it's so white and so minimal. It's literally like a morgue, and it's so perfect with the contrast of the three of them having sex, but the sex is so like, he's just there's clearly obviously no connection between any of them, and he's just like he wants to, and he's filming it all so he can which the fact that you're seeing it through which version, because obviously they took it out of Netflix, so I know you watched it somewhere else. Did the version you watch, how long was the sex scene? Because there's a non-cut version where the sex scene is quite long, and there's a cut version on Netflix where the sex scene was shorter.
Do you see
both girls giving him a blowjob?
No.
Okay, so you
Oh,
got
did I watch
covered.
the short one? I got
Probably.
short change for my sex scenes. You learn something new every day.
There
I
you
guess
go.
I've got to borrow one of your many DVDs.
I don't know that I can part with one of them. I'm attached to all three. They are my
maybe
children.
maybe in the summer we'll do like
Yeah.
project it onto back garden.
Yes, that would be amazing. Actually, I would so be down for that. But yeah, I feel like in the version you've seen, do you see the sex scenes throughout the camera as well?
Yes.
Yeah, and the director was saying that's also a great tool to show the disconnect even more. And it's just like, which is so funny because they're literally all performing. Like he's performing while he thinks like a cool, whatever, like muscular, handsome, good shag must be like. They're performing because it's literally their job. I think it's brilliant.
I do too, and I really like it's what he does when he's killing someone as well, where he goes into his whole diatribe about music. And I really enjoy, I can't remember if he is talking about music when he's orchestrating everything, or what
he
he's
is before,
talking
like
about.
when they're sat, the three of them, and he puts Phil Collins on, and then he talks about Phil Collins, and he brings them to the bedroom, and like Susudio is playing during the entire scene.
But it also adds on to that whole, he's like performing and orchestrating, and like I really like the not blonde one's reaction, where she's sort of like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, but I'm here now and I kind of have to. And because he's also quite he's very intimidating, so it's you don't quite know what he's gonna do, which obviously when he gets out his tools, you don't know. But I really enjoyed seeing his, like, the more of his kind of character, and then how they show through the they cut through the camera, because I feel like it also adds to the sense of unease, because you're kind of being taken out of it every so often, and that feeling of being watched, because I don't know if the girls know that they're being filmed.
Oh, they do. Like the camera, he sets up the camera as they talk, and the camera is huge.
Okay.
Like there's no way they didn't see it. and he keeps on saying, look at the camera.
Oh yeah.
I have a technical question. Like the first position they're seen doing, he's behind one of the girl, so he's like basically doggy on, like doing doggy style, but then the other girl is in front of the other girl, and but they're all moving as one. But I'm like, surely there's nothing actually going on with the second girl.
I was wondering that too. I was like, is she wearing a strap on?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Is she? Yeah,
because I don't think Patrick Bateman would allow anyone else to be having a dick in the room.
No, it would compromise his ego.
Big time.
Yeah, but I was also thinking that too, because I was like, they all seem to be moving in tandem, like they're all having sex at the same time, but only one of them has a penis.
I guess again, it's just like, it's so fake and it's so orchestrated.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not even having a dick inside you, but you're still acting like you are. Like, it's just, everything is for show, basically.
Yes.
I think it's really interesting. And the director said,
bringing in the director's cut.
Well, she was like talking about how her and Christian Bale were trying to decide, like talking about the scene and trying to decide, what positions were going to be performed and everything. And apparently they watched porn the night before together to like make notes of what positions they wanted to do.
Well, it did feel very like porn-esque.
Yeah, well, the scene in the film, the scene in the book is basically just a porno movie. So she made it a little bit more awkward. She says that she doesn't like how every single time sex with a prostitute is portrayed on the screen, it's always really hot and whatever, when she's like, actually it's a job for them, they're doing it because they have to, they're probably just like anyone else in their jobs, where they're not always like in the mood, it's not always, and sex is not always hot. And I think that's why you get scenes like when he's like, you dance, and she's awkwardly dancing in the corner of the room while he dresses the other one up, and it's like, that's just not hot at all. And then apparently on the day of the shoot, he arrived with like little stick figurines, and they like tried all the positions with the stick figurines to see what could happen or not. And that's how they decided what positions to do. Which I'm such
oh my god, I love
that.
this so much. I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan of that. That is hilarious.
But
just imagine like Christian Bale with a little stick figurine just being like, and then she humps him like this.
Well, apparently then in the last sex scene, which is the one with Guinevere Turner, who co-wrote the script, when they're first having sex, so Christy, the prostitute from the first threesome, is invited back to that one. And when they're having sex at first, they're under the covers, so you don't really see what's going on, but you kind of figure out that they're doing doggy again. And Guinevere Turner said in an interview that she was like, oh, so how is it going to happen? Like her, Mary Harron, and Christian Bale sat down to talk about the sex scene. And obviously this was pre-sex coordinators days. And she was like, so what do you guys think we should do? Like what kind of positions? And Christian Bale apparently was like, well, I think we start with me behind, and then I just flip you over, go down on you, and then it's just like start completely like killing you. And she was like, oh, okay, you've got it all figured out. You don't need me to participate.
Imagine having like that kind of casual conversation with Christian Bale, and he's just like, yeah, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna flip you around, go down on you, and I'm gonna stab you or like bite you.
Yeah, I love it. It's perfect. But yeah, I think that's really funny, and it's funny to imagine like what it would have been like. Again, just thinking back on their conversations, and then watching porn, and then like the stick figures, and then him being like, well, I guess this is how the sex scene is going to go. And it's such a different time. Like you can't really imagine any film doing this now, or at least not any big film, which I guess they weren't really a big film. They were like actually a pretty small budget, not massive film. But it feels like everything would be very much more controlled now for the sex scenes and everything. And they were saying that you know the scene at the end where he's running around naked with the chainsaw. He apparently in between takes was just like hanging around naked with a sock on his dick, and he would like talk to the entire, like talk to catering, talk to like whatever, anyone from cast and crew, but was just like hanging around naked covered in fake blood with a sock on his dick. And it didn't seem like anyone had any issue with it. They were all like, it's great that he's that comfortable and it's really funny. But imagine this now, that'd be like impossible. Like he'd get so cancelled.
Yeah, he would. He really would. Which, like, to be fair, a naked Christian Bale just like walking around with a sock on, like I would kind of say that that's almost like him method acting and like
exactly
playing. Is it Paul Bateman? No, Patrick. But it seems like he was channeling his Patrick Bateman character, but he wouldn't be able to do that nowadays.
No, definitely not. I think that's something else, kind of unrelated, but after the sex scene with I wish I could remember her name. I feel like I keep on wanting to say Samantha, but that's the actress name. The girl who's dating the guy from his work that he's sleeping with.
Okay.
Which again, I think he's only sleeping with her because she's dating his colleague, and it's like an ego boost / something that he probably feels like that's what people do / you know, something like that. Like not because he actually fancies her that much, I don't think.
No, I agree with you. Like everything he does feels like it's very calculated and to like further his own agenda in some way of like fitting in, being the best of the best. So it's like definitely a power play.
Yeah.
Because it's also like when he takes her out to the restaurant.
Oh, I love
it's
so
like
much. She's like asleep the entire time and he pretends it's Dorcia. Courtney, she's called Courtney.
That disconnect again where he's just like, this is all for appearances, this is all for show.
Yeah.
Like I'm not actually doing it because I fancy her
or
want to be with
not.
her.
But I love how when they're having sex, first of all, I love that as soon as they're done, he like gets like the stuffed animal from he's like lying
Oh
on.
yeah.
And his hair is all over the place, he's sweaty, but then as soon as he buttons up his shirt and he slicks back his hair, it's like nothing's ever happened. He's like straight away perfect again. It's just such a robot. I love it.
He is. I also, when after they finish having sex and she starts smoking, and he was like, I didn't know you smoked. It's almost like him being like, oh, like this is not what I signed up for.
Exactly.
Like, I didn't want this. Like, it's not part of his like perfectly manicured plan.
He requested a non-smoker. So that's literally what I think he thinks like, yeah.
Exactly. And you can really see that in like, yeah, every single one of his interactions. It's him like being a persona and being like some sort of robot trying to be a human.
Yeah. And it's so interesting you're saying that, because I was going to ask you, why do you think he doesn't kill Jean, his secretary?
My first thought is that she's useful to him, and that she knows a lot more about him than probably anyone in his life, and that makes her both useful and also a liability. So it's always so like you kind of want to keep her close, and also she's obviously like enamored with him, and he wants to keep that kind of going, so because it gives him a bit of an ego boost. But I don't think it serves him to kill her just yet. I think once he realizes she's seen the
notebook, like notepad,
exactly, I think it'd be different, but from what we see in the movie. But what are your thoughts on your own question?
I think I agree. I agree with this. I agree with the usefulness of it and everything. But I also think she's the only one who doesn't have a vice. Like, she seems really like clean. Because obviously the other girls he sleeps with is like they're prostitutes. The girl, the girl that Guinevere Turner plays, I think she's called Elizabeth. She's like high on drugs. She's clearly a bit whatever. The other girl, she's like clearly always high as well. She's cheating. Like, they're not very pure, whereas I feel like Jean is genuinely pure and innocent, and I think he values this.
Yeah, definitely. It's like it's definite currency in that world, because their world of drugs and sex and everything, to meet someone who's like doesn't have a vice, is quite pure in their intentions and their lifestyle, is quite rare. And he is quite I would say he's misogynistic in some ways, but like there's that kind of in the circle that he's in. It's that idea of like, oh, a pure woman is like she's virginal. She's it's that whole like narrative about virginity that is held in quite high esteem.
Do you think that's why he wants blonde girls only? Because Reese Witherspoon is also blonde.
Yeah, I would say that because also Courtney's blonde. Everyone is, so it's also almost that like blonde hair, blue eye, kind of the ultimate woman that he's like lusting after, searching for, so that he can be the ultimate man,
exactly,
with his ultimate woman,
exactly, with his prom suit on.
and his limo
and his romantic music. Because I mean, obviously, I think when he puts like Phil Collins on, he's like, this is my move, this is the romantic music, and they're drinking the romantic wine whilst I'm wearing the romantic suit. It's a romantic date. What do you think? I mean, I guess the sex scenes are quite easy to analyze in a lot of ways, because he's basically just performing. Do you find it funny, the sex scene with the threesome?
Which one? The first one with the I don't find it like laugh out loud funny, but I find it amusing. I think what I find most funny in the whole movie is his line of I need
I
to
gotta
take
return some videotapes.
I'm using that now. It's like a
Oh
throwaway
yeah,
line, like as an
100%.
excuse when people ask me to do things. I'm like, oh, I can't do it that day. I'm returning videotapes.
I think it's just the first time I watched it. I think I've watched it just because of Christian Bale, obviously, because I started my obsession where I ended up, I watched Batman, and then, which by the way, I will never accept that anyone can be a better Bruce Wayne. I think he's just the perfect Bruce Wayne.
He is a very good Bruce Wayne because he's already he's always already very charismatic as a person. He already has kind of the physique that you expect from Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got the attitude down. Actually, Bruce Wayne and Patrick Bateman are pretty much the same person, because obviously Bruce Wayne is putting on a mask all the time, except Bruce Wayne is like, trying to save people and Patrick Bateman is killing them. But apart from this technicality, they're both having loads of threesomes, because I'm sorry, but Bruce Wayne is constantly with like two models. It's like whenever he's going out, he's never with just one girl. It's always two of them. So I'm like, well, we all know where this is going. It's not like he's going to put one in a cab at the end of the night and be like,
no.
We all know what's actually happening. So he's got all the Patrick Bateman threesomes. He's got all the Patrick Bateman money, because obviously he's super rich, and so is Patrick Bateman. He's got all the cool suits, all the, charismatic, putting on a face, putting on a persona that isn't actually him. Basically, they're the same person.
If you did, like, if it wasn't canon, then is Batman just another like figment of Patrick Bateman's imagination?
Oh my god, yeah, I can so see this. Like, it's Patrick Bateman convincing himself is good.
It's like him almost being like Two-Face, in the sense of like he's got his like two sides to himself.
Oh, when he kills the homeless guy, I bet in his head is like, this homeless man was attacking a family. Yeah, I think we figured it out. This is actually what's happening.
And this is why Christian Bale played them both.
Exactly. Wow.
It was meant to be in canon.
Can't believe we figured this thing out that no one else has figured out. We're also clever. But yeah, I think it's when I got really obsessed with Christian Bale after watching Batman, I watched every single one of his films, which was a little tiny bit overkill, but it's fine because, like, obviously I do find him attractive, which is probably why I got so obsessed with him. I'm not going to pretend like I watch Newsies, where he's like, it's a musical that he was in when he was 17. I'm not going to pretend I watched this for the plot. Even though he was still really good in it, but he's also a really good actor, so it makes it really easy being obsessed with him and seeing all of his films. But watching American Psycho, I went in thinking I'm going to hate this, and it's probably going to scare me, and I might not finish it. And I kept on laughing, and I was just like, why is this a comedy? No one told me this is a comedy.
Yeah. I mean, because he's such an over-the-top character. And I think his scenes that I find the funniest are when he's killing people, and when he's doing the monologue about
it's so funny, and it's
music.
great how you know it's going to happen. And when he does it with the two girls, it's funny because as soon as it starts, you're like, oh shit, they're fucked. And then you've got the whole sex scene, which is quite funny, and it's like, so you're like, oh, never mind. And then it's like he wakes up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, no, this is happening.
Exactly. But it is, I guess, because I don't know if I'd call it satire.
I think it is a satire.
It's got it. I mean, definitely on the like waspy upper classes. Yuppie, that's the word. And it does a really good job of it, especially the fact that they call each other by
different, like they never know who's whom.
Exactly. Like there's small little like nods to it.
Yeah. But did you not notice, like, in the first restaurant they're in, for example, how they're like, just talking about it being a satire, like how the meals that they're talking about are completely ridiculous, and it's like urchin, whatever, sautéed urchin, and then it's like a ridiculous price, and they're like, oh, that's not bad. And it's just like I think it's just an obvious satire. And obviously, like, the business card scene, which is probably one of the best scenes of all time, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. And unbiased.
Exactly, I was gonna say.
But it's such a funny scene.
Yeah, it's true. They don't. I think it's like it toes a really good line between being like quite horrific at certain elements, funny, and then not taking itself too seriously.
No.
Like it toes some really good, because I think the name American Psycho of the movie, you already have some preconceptions of what you're going into, and then you're like, those preconceptions are dashed quite quickly. And that was another thing, when I first watched it, I was like really, really getting into horror, and I was like, where's the horror elements? Like, I want my horror, and it wasn't that, and I was like quite disappointed. But now I can kind of appreciate it a lot more. But I was more hoping for, like, I don't know, more horror elements,
I'm
which
so
I know
glad there isn't. I feel like that's why it's my favorite film. It's like, it really makes me laugh when it's super dark and not supposed to be funny, which is my favorite kind of humor. And then it's actually, I can get away with like how scary it is. It's not as bad as I thought it would be, so I can deal with it because I'm a child. I'm
excited for, because we're going to do an episode where I'm going to show you sex scenes from horror movies.
Yes, we are.
And I'm going to do my best to like cut it off before anything horrific happens.
You don't have to, or I will not trust you and will not watch the next one.
I mean, that's fair.
So do you think you would be good in bed?
No. Do you think so?
He didn't seem bad from what I've seen, but I don't think it'd be good. I think he'd have some maybe good moves, but very mechanical ones. But because I think he knows what he's doing, it's just not. It's not someone you're gonna have like really mind blowing. We connected so much sex with. But I almost puke with that sentence. We connected you.
See, I don't even need to be the one to say things to gross you out. You're doing it yourself.
Why do you think he'll be bad? Just because of
it's all about him getting self-gratification. It wouldn't feel like it would feel like I was a prop to him, rather than like him wanting to give me pleasure for my pleasure. It would be like him wanting to purely
I know, it's own like ego. Okay, he goes down on you, but then he starts eating you literally. It's just like, dude, let me have something.
Leave some of me left, you know.
I hate it when that happens.
I know, God. Oh, hit me with some more trivia.
So you know the business card scene, he starts sweating when he sees Paul Allen's card, and apparently Christian Bale will just start sweating every single time at the same line, and everyone was like, you are a robot, like how do you do this? Like he would just like make himself sweat on demand, which is pretty insane. But like
that is insane, because like crying on demand, I can understand that. Like I can understand how you can train yourself to cry on demand. How the fuck do you train yourself to sweat insane. On command?
He's just that good. His
whole body is an actor. It's not just
quite literally, there's a whole thing about the film itself, like so Mary Harron was brought in to write the script and direct it, and because she's made a film before called I Shot Andy Warhol, which was about a woman who shot Andy Warhol in real life, and I think it had that kind of darkness, but also like I think she can handle dark topics really well without it being like overly dramatic and hard to watch. So I think the people at Lionsgate, which is the people who made the film, probably saw that in her first film, and they brought her in for this. And she really wanted Christian Bale. When she auditioned him, he just came back from working in England. So because he's English, he had like an English accent, and he was really skinny, and it was just completely not Patrick Bateman at all. But she was like, no, I can see. He basically apparently was the only actor who played it like a comedy, and who played it as if Patrick Bateman is a massive dork who's trying to be cool but is really uncool, whereas all the other actors were playing him as if he's actually cool. And she was like, they're not getting it. He's not cool. You don't want to be him. He's a loser. Like he's just like he's not cool at all. And Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale is the only one who got that and who made it really funny. So she was like, he's the one who's got the part, like 100%. But she was like, you need to beef up, etc. So Christian Bale, being Christian Bale, literally like trained all the time, and she saw him like 2 weeks later or something like this, and he had Patrick Bateman's body. And Lionsgate didn't want him because he wasn't famous enough, and then they wanted Leonardo DiCaprio, and he was interested in doing it. Which, how weird would it be if Leonardo DiCaprio was Patrick Bateman?
I would be so weird.
It'd be so weird.
Because it wouldn't. Oh, I feel like also around that time, he had like a much younger.
Yeah, because that would have been right after Titanic.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking about the time. Yeah, he would have had too young a face. Like I think it wouldn't have carried the same like bravado.
Obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio is amazing. Like, he's a great actor and everything. I'm sure he wouldn't have done a bad job of it. But I just don't think I don't think he's Patrick Bateman. Like, I don't think he would have worked. And especially at that time, like you say, it was very baby-faced, and he's just not. I don't know. I just don't think he was right. And Mary Harron refused to even meet him because she was like, he's just not right. Like, and also she didn't want to deal with someone who was like just out of Titanic, and she knew that it wouldn't really ever be dealing with him. It would be dealing with all of his people and his agent and everything. And she was also saying that, you know, every 15-year-old in the country had a crush on him, and it's like, then they're going to show him like killing people. Like, that's going to be a problem for his image. So she's not going to be able to do what she wants, which is obviously not what you want when you're directing a film.
Definitely.
With Christian Bale being like less famous, that also meant people weren't necessarily going to think of him as Christian Bale. They could really just be like, this is Patrick Bateman, and not think like, oh, and he's also this super romantic guy who dies on a boat kind of thing. So that definitely, I can see why that was the right choice. But because she didn't want to do it with him and they wanted him, they fired her from the project. And they got what's his face, Oliver Stone, is that his name? Yeah, it is his name, isn't it?
I'm bad with names. We know that.
The director, and then he wanted to, like, he was taking over, and then him and Leonardo DiCaprio had completely different views on the project, and Leonardo DiCaprio got, like, basically decided not to do it and went to do The Beach instead. And then the other guy got fired, and they went back to Mary Harron, who obviously said yes because it's still like an amazing job, and no matter how pissed off you are, I think you're still like, yeah, I'll take the job. But they still didn't want Christian Bale, so she told him, don't worry, I've got a list of actors and we're going to make sure they all say no, basically, and then they'll have no choice than to go for you. So, like, Christian Bale, one of the actors on the list was Ewan McGregor that Christian Bale just worked with, which also, what? No. No. I think there was like Matt Damon.
Matt Damon?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
What?
Don't quote me on that one, but I think so. But yeah, apparently Christian Bale called Ewan McGregor and was like, you're going to get offered this role. Please say no. It's for me. And everyone said no. And then he got the part finally. And literally, I think their budget was like ridiculous. They got like way less money than they were supposed to get when it was going to be Leonardo DiCaprio doing it. And obviously when it came out, people hated it. Like, it wasn't popular at all. Like, people were not into it at all. Until years later, where finally it became like a cult classic, as they call them.
Yes, and this seems to happen quite a bit with like going back to like Jennifer's Body, but Jennifer's Body was also like marketed wrong, where they were like marketing it to teenage boys instead of to teenage girls who it was meant for. But it always happens with these sorts of ones that are like a little bit off kilter, or like not what you expect.
Not what you expect, yeah.
That once you watch it a few years later, you can really appreciate it for what it is. Whereas I feel like at the time you're like, it's not American Psycho. I'm expecting like a big psychopath. Yeah,
I think Mary Harron said that she went to the screening at the premiere or something, and it was just her, Christian Bale, and Guinevere Turner laughing. And I'm like, why aren't people laughing? This is funny.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting to hear like all that trivia, because I think honestly, like, I'm not saying that just to like, because you don't really appreciate the behind the scenes thing. You sort of see it for what it is, and then you're like, oh, that's cool. Like Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale as Patrick Bateman worked really well, but it would not have worked with any of those other actors. Like, I really think that it was Christian Bale's role.
Yeah,
because it
100%.
just, if he as well, that he like got it, that it was meant to be a comedy. And I was thinking, if it was Leonardo DiCaprio, there would have been too much of a focus of like, oh, he's cute though, like he's got that thing from Titanic that you'd never get, that like kind of creepy dorky kind of like playing a human sort of vibe.
Yeah.
Like it would have been too much cute, like, oh, he's the hot man. Whereas like, yes, Christian Bale is hot, but he's like, how he plays Patrick Bateman is like, there's something sinister there. You always feel like there's something sinister under the surface.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think he plays him really well. So
I could not agree more. How sexy do you think the film is from 1 to 10?
I don't think it's very sexy. I'm sorry. I think it's like a 4 or 5 for me.
Oh wow, that's more than I thought. I thought you were going to say like a 2.
I think I was being nice because I know that this is one of your favorite films. I mean, I was like, I don't want to shit all over it.
No, it's fine. I agree that it's not. I mean, I think it's sexy because we get to see a lot of Patrick Bateman, well, a lot of Christian Bale's body, and we get to see him in action quite a lot. So actually, I would say it's definitely like at least a 6, but it's not. It's not the kind of film you're watching if you're like, "Ooh, when I watch something that's going to turn me on tonight." You don't put American Psycho on.
Bringing someone back and being like, do you want to watch a hot movie? Like, get in the mood. You lock all the doors, put on some music, start talking about the music.
Set the camera up.
Yeah. Open your drawer of tools.
Yeah, it's not really that kind of sexy vibe.
No, it is not. But it's also not trying to be.
No, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It's not there for that. That's not what its job is.
Yes.
What are we going to talk about next time?
Are we doing the Will They Won't They episode next time? Oh,
yes, we are.
Oh,
really
we've
fun.
been looking. Yeah, we're going to talk about whether there's been a decent Will They Won't They storyline, as in when the couple has actually got together, has it just fizzled out, or have they been able to carry the storyline on, and how good the build up is as well.
I think there's going to be a lot of sitcom talk because
Yes,
that's one thing that's very, like, we can't really talk about sitcoms that much because there's not really any sex scenes to analyze. So it'll be a really good opportunity for us to talk about those kind of shows. And we can talk about the sexual tension, which is not quite as fun as sex scenes, but we can analyze something sexy still.
Exactly. I mean, we're not called Sex Scene Sunday, we're called Sexy Sunday.
That's a great point, Jess. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
All right, amazing. Well, see you next time.
See you next time.